Now, as the old saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It is an old saying. It's some attribute it to Socrates. Some people say Churchill came up with it. I'm going to take credit for it. I think I just made it up. So the Biden administration appears to be embracing that axiom, revealing this week that they're considering working with the Taliban regime in Afghanistan to combat the growing terror threat posed by ISIS-K. Now, the Taliban has no love for the group, which has wreaked havoc on the militant regime ever since they took control of Afghanistan following the disastrous U.S. withdrawal. You remember that in the summer of 2021. The U.S. is reportedly considering a cooperative agreement with the Taliban, where the U.S. would share intelligence regarding ISIS-K and the Taliban would feed us real-time intelligence about their regional operations. That's according to a report from NBC News. Now, ever since the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, coupled with our waning influence in Africa, you like that word, waning? The U.S. has struggled to gather comprehensive intelligence about ISIS-K and other offshoots of the Islamic State. So much for the vaunted over-the-horizon capability. You remember that? The Biden administration talked about that incessantly during the withdrawal. Without a clear picture of their activities, U.S. options are limited regarding an intelligence partner in the region. That's to say the least. For more on this, I want to bring in my very good friend, the retired senior military intelligence officer, the esteemed, the one and only, I can't think of anything else to say about him, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. Tony, thanks very much for joining us, man.
And I got a shirt on today, too, so there you go. It's a bonus episode.
I know. I mean, for those who are wondering about the Inside Baseball, Tony was gracious enough to join the Situation Report, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. Seems like just yesterday,
Tony.
Couple weeks ago. And he showed up wearing a T-shirt, which, so now I'm wearing a T-shirt because I thought, well, we'd look like, members of the same boy band. And he comes on wearing a shirt. So, anyway. And a short sleeve shirt at that. That's a bold move right there.
That's bold.
All right, let's get talking Taliban. Let's talk ISIS-K.
Yeah.
What do you think about this report, Tony? Just anywhere you want to go with that conversation.
So, Mike, we had recognized before we left that ISIS-K was actually successful in taking over several provinces. This was when we were still on the ground there. By my count, there was about 5 provinces they had taken over, and there was a conflict between the Taliban. My belief was, since we were there, let the Taliban and ISIS-K just fight each other. And I think that would have been fine to keep them kind of at bay. And for the record, I was not for our leaving. I think we should have kept a intelligence and special operations force at Bagram to strike. This over-the-horizon stuff, Mike, it never works, especially in a country that's landlocked like Afghanistan. You have to have a presence. And I don't believe for the blood and treasure we invested, we should have ever left. We didn't leave Germany. We didn't leave South Korea. We didn't leave Japan. So I don't know why we decided this. But with that said, it's very clear at this point there's a conflict between those two radical elements. But my belief is it's not our job to jump in the middle of that. I'm going to say a word. You may not like it. And that word is Pakistan. The Pakistanis have been very close to the issue because they live there. We don't. And I have worked with the Pakistani ISI. I'm not always fond of them. I've had some pretty harsh words for them. But I think whatever we do, we have to do in conjunction with the Pakistanis and understanding what their interests are, because they're the ones we've worked with as a proxy. Heck, your former organization used to work very closely with them. So I'm not one saying we should try something different than what's worked in the past. And the past, we've worked with the ISI and the Pakistanis quite effectively.
Yeah. I think I would caveat that with my feeling that you always have to be careful with ISI. In terms of how they're playing. Yeah, how they're playing the game. But I guess I'm of two minds here, Tony. I think if we were to approach it pragmatically, right, which typically the U.S. government doesn't, they approach it in sort of a fanciful way. And I know they're going to get tripped up over saying, well, we're going to have this cooperation with the Taliban, and in exchange, they're going to guarantee women's rights, and they're going to do, and civil liberties. We can't help ourselves sometimes as a government. If we just went at it pragmatically, right, and said, all right, it's an intelligence collection operation. I don't care. I don't trust the Taliban as far as you could throw them out the top of a 30-story tower. But if you say they've got some intelligence that we could use to degrade ISIS-K and other elements of ISIS perhaps, without this fanciful concept that somehow we're getting into a relationship where suddenly our enemy becomes our friend, then I guess I don't have a problem with that. I just don't know that the U.S. government is capable of approaching it in that fashion, being very, very mercenary, because, that's how the Taliban will approach this.
Right. Well, we did use that approach for the initial entry. Remember, we worked with closely the Northern Alliance. It's in a book called 12 Strong. The movie's 12 Strong. Horse Soldiers is the name of the same book by Doug Stanton. And I know Doug. Doug's a great guy. He did a great job of researching that book. And yeah, we were very mercenary, if I can use that word, to work directly with tribes who were friendly to us. I'm not against us engaging tribes, Mike. I mean, when I was there running operations, we were using tribes. It's in my book, Operation Dark Heart. We talk about how we were using the tribes both as ground guides to get our combat forces against Hekmatyar and others that we were going after, as well as working with them, via them, to secure the provinces. So I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm just not sure if the Taliban is the right tribe. I mean, there are other tribes out there, and I mentioned the Northern Alliance. They were very close to us. They were very upset, really upset when we withdrew, and they were the last province to fall. By the way, Mike, if you remember the when we left, when the Taliban went after everybody, they were the last ones to fall. They tried to hold out. So I'm not sure if they'd be willing to talk to us, but I'm all for the idea of working with tribes on the ground to get that real-time direct intelligence that we need to make assessments.